Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists and all of the guests that are here. It's a great honor for me to be here with you, and of course we couldn't be here at a more opportune time, or maybe at a more terrible time. This is a very difficult period of time that we're going through. It's an era of great turmoil and change in the world, particularly in the Middle East, and it can't be stopped, what's going on, and it shouldn't be, because the long-term implications of what's going on in the Middle East are tremendous for your cause and for the United States. This is what we were dreaming about for many, many years, that the idea of freedom and democracy, rights for women, laws protecting people, that these ideas would reach the street and reach millions and millions of people. And maybe it's a combination of how often those rights have been repeated, how many people have died in order to protect and expand them, or maybe the new information revolution in which people get information and can't be denied information no matter how hard oppressors try. It's happening now. And it's going to continue to happen during the next 10 or 15 years. What happened in Egypt happened in Libya. It's happening elsewhere. It will happen ultimately in China, if it isn't happening already. And this is all the direction that America wants to see the world move. But that doesn't mean that in between there aren't going to be some terrible tragedies and some horrible things that happen, because in the short term this can be just as dangerous as it is wonderful in the long term. We are going to see dictators replaced by dictators who are much worse. We're going to see people that are bad replaced by people who are truly evil. And that's just going to happen. And what it calls for on the part of my country, our country, is expert management, great experience, tremendous sensitivity, and most importantly, leadership. There's an article today in the New York Post that repeats an article, I believe, in the New Republic, in which a liberal Democrat and a conservative Republican agree. Here's what they agree on. What they agree on is that President Obama does have a policy in the Middle East. I've been wondering what that was. But now I think I know what the policy is. It's called Lead from Behind. The liberal Democrat thinks this is wonderful, and the conservative Republican thinks it's awful, but they both agree that the basic hallmark of his policy throughout has been lead from behind. That's what happened in Egypt, right? First he thought Mubarak was stable. The vice president said Mubarak was stable. The secretary of state said he couldn't be dislodged, and then Mubarak gone. Then, of course, we had, following on that, the situation in Libya. First, it was unlikely Gaddafi would be removed. Then we called for regime change in Libya. On the day that the president called for regime change in Libya, do you think it might have occurred to him to call for regime change in Iran? I can't imagine someone being much worse than Gaddafi. Horrible person. Killed Americans, killed citizens of England, killed citizens of the world, slaughtered his own people, continues to do it. Horrible, horrible human being. Hard to believe that someone is worse. Try Ahmadinejad. There's no question that our intervention in Libya can be justified on the basis of protecting the people of Libya. But I don't know that it can be justified on defending the most important national interests of the United States. Libya has been essentially neutered. You can justify either one of two decisions with regard to Libya. Be there to help the people of Libya, or don't, because we're so stretched thin and we have to think about things that are more closely tied to our national interests. What you can't justify is be there but not know why we're there. Here's why we're there. We're there to protect the people of Libya, but we're not now for regime change in Libya. Well, who are we protecting the people of Libya against? Gaddafi. How can you possibly protect the people of Libya if you don't remove Gaddafi? This is why our allies are having such trouble figuring out our policy. It's irrational. It doesn't make sense. It contradicts itself. So I think this lead from behind thing works really well, because that's how we got into this in the first place. Well, if you're going to lead from behind, it would seem to me that delisting the MEK would now be very comfortable for this administration, because they don't have to worry about the nervousness of leading. Everybody else has delisted the MEK. The United Kingdom has, in a very thoughtful written opinion. The European Union has. The president doesn't have to follow, he can lead. And here's the danger of lead from behind. While you're waiting, while you're dithering, while you're considering, while you're analyzing, while you're pondering, while you're dreaming, people die because of inaction. This isn't a game in which you can take a time out. I spoke to many of you in this group in September of last year. In September, I said, we need a Ronald Reagan, someone who has the courage to support the opposition in Poland and not look the other way when your people were in the streets seeking freedom. Where was America? Dithering, hiding, afraid, wanting to negotiate with a madman. Well, my goodness, we don't have to follow anymore. We don't have to lead anymore. This should make this administration very comfortable. They can follow. But in doing that, so many have died. In September, we called for delisting the MEK. Now, here's the price of delay. Here's why leading from behind isn't leading at all. Here's why leading from behind is so dangerous. Those 35 people that were killed might very well not have been killed if in September or October or November or December the Secretary of State and the President had done what is obviously necessary to do, which is to delist the MEK. That, right over there is the price of delay. Right over there is the reason why leadership at times calls for bold action. Leadership might have avoided the Second World War. Governor Dean made the case overpowering that the MEK should be delisted. Whatever the reasons for listing it back in the 90s, whether it was just an attempt to mollify what was thought of as moderates in Iran. If the strategy was to negotiate, one of the reasons to reject this strategy now, it hasn't worked. Things have gotten worse in Iran, not better. Iran's gotten much closer to becoming a nuclear power than it was then. Iran has become more assertive. Ahmadinejad is worse than what's come before. So the policy hasn't worked. We haven't been able to negotiate with them, and it's foolish, immature to think that we can. They have a platform. The platform is written out. It's clear. They follow it. These people who were slaughtered signed a pledge to disavow violence. This is much more than the IRA ever did. And we're having trouble getting the delisting of the MEK lifted. What can it be but a misguided, seriously misguided attempt to try and mollify people who can't be mollified? And it has to happen now. The more time that we wait, the more incidents like this horrible incident at Ashraf on April 8th. We have got to get the President and the Secretary of State to obviously do what is necessary. And this is such a great opportunity for them and for us. Someone like Gaddafi, horrible person, horrible history, Certainly a good thing if he goes for his own people, but right now in terms of us, America, and our whole effort against terrorism, not much of a player.